What up, Bloods? This is Launders. I'm here for some demo analysis content. All right, we're here watching SHOX play against Misfits at the, you guessed it, major, not the major qualifier, the major. All right, this is where men are made. All right, this is where the best break bread. All right, this is what it all boils down to. For old players, for new players, for up and coming players, you know, you got to show yourself at the major. You got to show your best form. And the reason we're watching this game is because, no spoilers. I mean, yes, spoilers. SHOX went 20, had like 20 kills and like 4 deaths or something in the first half of the CT side. I was watching the game today and I was thinking, this is the SHOX we want to see. You know, this is the face, right? This is the face of French CS. All right, that we've been waiting for. All right, this is the guy with the haircut that we subscribe to. Okay, and SHOX, you know, he went in this half, and I think it had something to do with this like HLTV interview where Apex said that SHOX is now put in a role where he can think about himself a little bit more, have a little bit more freedom, and because G2 need him to be a star. And you know what? I agree, you know? So I'm happy to hear that. And I'm really looking forward to going through the CT half, putting it under a bit of a microscope. I didn't preemptively watch the demo to make sure that there aren't going to be any filler parts. You know I like my long form, one-cut content. So, you know, we just kind of skipped over that pistol round. Wasn't much to see. Played inside a drop. No one came to him. No big deal. But there was a couple of rounds here that really grabbed my attention, and I can't wait for them to come. I don't know exactly what rounds they were, but they're retake. There are a couple of sick retakes or post-plant situations that were just beautiful, and it really made me believe in SHOX all over again. It really made me believe. So I can't wait to talk about those. It's not every day that you get to talk about a player who has such fantastic mechanical ability as SHOX that also just has incredible decision making, and then, you know, puts them together to provide the most beautiful CS possible. A couple of good kills, nothing too fancy. Or as an anti-eco, let's not get too excited. All right, we all know SHOX is a god, but anybody can do that. That's nothing to write home about. Okay, I think we have another anti-eco round. We can skim through it. Maybe he has a highlight in here. When you're making the frag movie, you've got to watch these rounds too. A nice 4K spray down with the MP9 to pad the vid. It's important. It's important for ego. It's important for viewership. And, you know, they might have heard this boost here, but since he got up first, he's got pole position, right? There's not much they can do about this. They've got to kind of give in to it. I mean, Sick was obviously poking the bear a bit, but he's also got not a lot to lose. Whereas SHOX would rather get these kills than let his teammate get the kills, because if his teammates die, they might be losing an M4. He's only losing an MP9. On the plus side, he's going to be getting, you know, all that kill reward, whereas teammates are not going to. So it's actually in his best interest to go and seek out these frags. But here he is, under drop, after losing all his health, falling back to kind of a bit of an off angle. Don't really like that drop fight. If you know me, you know I don't like drop as an area in general, because the fights are so awkward for terrorists, and can be equally awkward for CTs if terrorists pick the perfect angle to come over the ledge and like peek into you. So all around, it's not a fun position, I think, to play. Now we've got a bonus round. SHOX is up 5-1. His teammates all have better guns. And it's because he doesn't want to upgrade. If we look at the money, everybody's got a bunch of it. Kenny S is obviously a little low because he had to rebuy, because he was one of the only scrubs who died on the anti-eco. But the way they see it here is that Misfits spent all their money, right? They bought to broke. They're completely fucked if they lose this round. And for G2, the more money they save this round, well, they could do lots of damage. Let's say they get 3 kills here, right? They get 3 kills. They go into the next round. Oh my god, I think this is the round. Alright, so check this fucking shit out, alright? SHOX grabs an AK. Check our utilities. Got a smoke and a Molotov. He knows that Sick is up here on the A site. It was calmed by his teammates. Now, right here on the lower ramp, okay, he's going to hear the bomb go down. And when he hears the bomb go down, I don't actually remember exactly what he does, but we can take a guess. He's either going to peek a little bit wide, make sure that it's nowhere in front of him that Sick planted the bomb. But where Sick is planting the bomb is default. So Sick can plant the bomb here safely from pretty much everywhere. That's why it's default. He doesn't know that SHOX is on the big flank. SHOX is taking the time here to make sure that it's not some kind of fake plant. And now that that smoke goes out, he realizes, okay, he's still on default or he's moved around. If SHOX jumps up in this situation, there is the opportunity for Sick to fall off of the site and peek him. SHOX is holding the one angle, unless Sick goes up top, that he can catch SHOX from off guard. And so as the smoke goes down, he realizes, all right, well, the best he can do from here is either drop down, which Sick might do if he gets impatient, go up top, which SHOX can try to catch him here from. He's got the, you know, health and stuff. And the only thing that he could the only way he could fuck this up is by actually jumping up and getting caught while jumping. Now, this is pretty interesting because Sick has locked himself into a spot and doesn't realize it. And now from here, realizes that his movement, SHOX realizes that he's either going to try to go to the back or sit in the default. The Molotov was fucking perfect. It was truly his ace in the hole to use his utility that way. And he goes and grabs the op as well. So that was just beautiful. It was a checkmate play, and it was good patience. It looked like he was really... It looked like SHOX was just like kind of gambling, but what he was really doing was just making sure that he couldn't get fucked up by some early aggression, and then from there realizes that he can volley out half of the spots that Sick could potentially be in and isolate him perfectly. So that was just great awareness by him, and you could tell that he was very calm because by his movement, he wasn't second-guessing himself. He wasn't jumping up. He wasn't looking around too frantically. And that's what you see with a lot of like young aimers. That is a big problem, is they get way too frantic. Now we got a long B rush. SHOX realizes that he's going to sit here. This is just great aim. There's not much more to it. All right, the first frag is because he put himself in a good position. And then the second kill is because he's feeling it today, right? Most players can do that. SHOX is feeling it today. Now, he's not only playing smart, he's also playing really, really well. So, yeah, when you eat the flash, you can go under, you can go into the crevice and wait for people to jump out. If anybody jumps out of the smoke into path, which is very common to do, and the reason is because if you jump out in a path and you come down here, and then let's say you're like looking out this way as a player who got to here, then you can, if someone's like opping chicken coop, right, then they can't stand here and like look at long B. So that helps your teammates who come out across. And if there's a guy opping here on the statue, his spot is compromised too. So there's a lot of value in actually coming out here. And so that makes the meta of playing long B sometimes, just waiting here, knowing that this guy's going to try to circumvent the whole site to compromise all these spots. And that's why it's really good to take a spawn to try to fight long B in this way, or to go to the stairs. But sometimes the stairs, you know, will get pre-nated, or sometimes if you decide to go to the stairs, and all these guys coming out long will be your fight, but this guy will actually sneak by. So sometimes this is actually better than going there. So I think if we do more of this type of content, I can pretty much do like a video a day for the major if stuff stands out to me, and I'm gonna watch as many games as I can, and then yeah, just pump out some demo analyses, and if you like it, let me know, and we'll just keep doing them. Because right now, I Mr. Upload a video once every 2 months, but in actuality, I made 3 videos last week. I'm not actually putting them on the YouTube channel, unfortunately, so you guys aren't going to see a lot of that content on the channel. It'll be out there. You'll see it eventually, but it's, you know, it's white label content, so that means that, you know, it's going to go, we have a couple of videos going up for a show, another video that's going to be exclusively on another site, and I just can't talk about them. You can't see them right now, but, you know, I can do these. I like doing these. I like talking about my favorite players like SHOX, and it's not difficult to do. So you know, if you like them, I'll try to put them up. We did have some like quality control on the YouTube channel, and hold on, I'm gonna cut myself off here. So we're in the retake. Shock throws a smoke out, and I think he missed it a little bit. It should have landed in between the APC, but it would still help to try to cover him from anybody who's watching from below. So the smoke obscures the vision of anybody who's either under heaven or by the APC, and that just narrows your angles down. Now smokes aren't walls; you could shoot through them, but if you're inside a smoke, your vision's obstructed, then you're going to go find a new angle. So that's the idea behind your smokes on retakes. And that's why it's good not to just throw your smokes. That's why smokes are so freaking important. Okay, I didn't miss anything even though I fast forwarded a little bit too much. But he took a pick. He took a pick over the smoke at A. Again, I think he had a pretty decent spawn. And you know, SHOX is I thought that Sean was going to back up into that, but he did a good job of making sure he didn't show too much of himself to the door. And SHOX is a sole player at A. This is an interesting spot because, you know, you can't come here late, right? You can't come down here late that easily. But if you come here early, you know that no one's crossed or something. And I'm not sure if he heard Sean, but he knows that he has all this cut off, right? So that means that if anybody new comes in, they have to cross him. So it's just about probabilities. For him, if somebody's already at long, there's not a lot he can do about that. But since he, number one, got there early, and number two, has so much info that he's cutting off, he knows that, like, there's a 20% chance that this play is dangerous, and 80% of the time, we say 20% because it's 1 of 5, and it's 80% chance that, you know, he either cuts somebody off or he just takes a fight or gets info and then is able to fall off. And what this allows his teammates to do is confidently rotate all the way over to B. So what we would have if SHOX was playing like Stables, for example, if he was opping from here, and let's clear this. So if SHOX decided to op kind of passively at the beginning of the round and then go, you know, hold this angle, which is a very useful angle, well, he's still going to be worried about multiple people coming out of lower A, and that means that he would probably have a teammate here to watch down lower A. And what does that do? Well, that pulls, like, let's say our boy Apex over here. So now there's only 1, 2, and 3 people at B as opposed to 4. But as we can see where the bomb is postured from Misfits and how many people are here, there's 4. And you would want, if you think that if they had X-ray on, right, but they were pretending to hide it at least, they would want to play 4B in this situation. And it's pretty much cobble, so you want to play 4B as much as you can. So here he's holding on to map control. And again, this is not a play actually that's like, what a fucking play by SHOX and so on. And so a lot of people will do this. This is pretty standard stuff. But now I think after recognizing the threat a bit of the fact that maybe he heard Sean, that's also potential. He's moved back to long A. And there's a smoke that Sean throws to try to pull a rotation back to A and just cause some fear and doubt in G2's mind as to whether or not it would be B. And Sean picked really good timing on this actually, and, you know, cross back through the smoke, elate, avoid getting off by SHOX. And the rotate is still pretty passive over here at B. But SHOX hasn't really seen anything to convince him that it shouldn't be B, and he also has an op, which is very powerful. So now he's going to move back to the B site as the full XQ comes out with very little time left over, which is another tell that allows you to rotate it in late. And oh, I actually think this is not a good thing to watch if we're trying to highlight why SHOX is a great player. But yeah, that kind of looked like, well, why is Amanek doing this bot plant? Well, it's because he had literally no time to go anywhere else. So he kind of did what he had to do. SHOX could have got killed if he pushed in and Amanek faked the last second defuse. It was a 50-50 for Amanek because he doesn't know if SHOX is going to go and try to big dick it or if SHOX is going to play the late game. But one thing that we know is that SHOX had 15 HP, so he had a lot of reasons to try to end the round early. So he kind of did his part. Amanek went through the 50-50. It's hard to blame either of them and say that, like, one person made a bad play, one person didn't. But maybe we wouldn't even talk about it if SHOX just hit that initial really easy shot. But anyway, you know, it's not your aim that makes great players. if aim was everything, you know, Scream would be the best player. Now it's another kind of, there's long B presence here. So the only times that the only time he had been at A was when he was opping, had the opportunity to get a pick, but it's back to long B control, and this is it's just a really important spot. What's kind of interesting about this is he did play long B before this like interview with Apex, and he kind of made some rash decisions in some of the games that I casted, like casted all at ECS, and would see some of his online matches, which is obviously a little bit different, but a little bit of over aggression I think we saw from SHOX. I feel like I just started talking like Yoda for some reason. That's something weird that you do when you're casting, where you start talking like Yoda. You go, where you try to describe things like, and he will do, like it's too formal. I'm not. It doesn't really make sense. I don't know why we do that when we're casting, but it shouldn't sound like that. But anyways, this is just my stream of consciousness demo analysis video, and if you don't like it, you can eat my whole ass, okay? Also, there will be swearing, and it's just overall lewd content for Counter-Strike demo analysis, but you're gonna have to live with that. So now SHOX is on the big flank once again. He's done this before. Now they know that if they don't see SHOX, and SHOX is a long B player, and he's on the retake, well, and they haven't seen him, well, they're gonna start thinking, well, he's going to be somewhere here, but they don't expect him to come out from long, and he gets both players. Really good stuff. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a hard thing to do. The only thing that he changed up was that he went on a big flank through long, and he could have come up the lower ramp. He probably would have been able to see Almanac still in that situation, but I think that the call for misfits, or the thought from Almanac, is that if there is a guy in heaven, you might be able to catch the plant. Default probably would have been a safer option, just being real, but I don't think it was that bad. You can kind of see why they decided to do that. This game is very subjective, you know? If anybody tells you, like, there's something you should never, ever, 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 ever do, it's probably not true. There's almost always a situation where that isn't true based on, like, the player, or, you know, like, you always plant the bomb when there's 4 seconds left, right? Like Almanac did on that previous round, the SHOX 1v1. Well, it's not necessarily true. You could actually, you know, he lost the round because he planted the bomb, even though that seems like a 100% situation. So, game's very subjective and very circumstantial. It's important to always remember that and try to rationalize why some decisions are made. And always factor in, you know, the human element of that. People are playing the game as well as playing the player, and that is also another thing that separates the greats from the goofs, if you will. But here it is, SHOX watching the back of drop. So he's basically like Apex on this round. If you guys remember what we were talking about before, how Apex was here at drop, he's going to replace Apex. So he's the guy who's going to switch between watching lower A. He's actually probably going to watch this too. And in the meantime, he's just making sure that no one can come out the back. I think it depends on the setup. Is actually a little bit redundant just because NBK is in the door. Now, if somebody drops out, SHOX might want to be ready for it, even if NBK misses, so he can watch this. But right now, it looks to me like SHOX is holding this angle because he's got nothing better to do at the moment. His angle is not the greatest for watching long just yet, so he feels like just wants to make sure he doesn't get shot in the back at the moment, and then you're going to see him turn his attention almost certainly this way, especially since they're about to make noise. You don't have to be Nostradamus to figure that out. And we can see that the angle is not so deep. Once he sees these pistols flying across his screens, gets a depressed angle, hits some really good flicks, and then gets a double dink to the face from Sean. And who wouldn't want Sean all over their face? So it's hard to blame him. The IGLs go at it. Sean comes out on top. And as we know, the top is so much better than the bottom. It's one of the only good 50 Cent quotes. Okay, 8-1. We're killing it. It's obviously a ton of kills. A couple of eco frags there. But you know what? It was an op, okay? And if they If they had, and you know what, pistolers are hard to hit with an op because they have faster movement speed. So I don't want to hear it. They would have died no matter what gun they had, and they would have been easier to kill on a rifle round. Back to long B with SHOX op in hand, and he's not in a position now, so this is kind of interesting. And again, this is general stuff. This is not SHOX specific genius strategy, genius play or anything like that. He, you know, if he had a rifle, he could have continued. He could have pressed forward right through the flashes that are cascading over the site, and then sit here and then watch this back like he did before, and that could have worked just as well, especially having body here. So even if they came out and like decided to do a 180 just because they figured SHOX would still be there, he could still be in a position to kill them with body and make it really hard for them to jump out, and then from there control long B. But because he has the op, he can't sit there with an op and have two people jump out and look like a friggin' moron if it is a B rush. So instead falls back to rock, has body here. So technically this B setup is not as strong as it could be. And because he couldn't get to like the most favorable position, which would be chicken coop or even statue, this would be a good opportunity for Misfits to go for a B hit, but they don't know that SHOX is opping it. That's the value of being dynamic on your CT side, whether you know it or not, like whether you know that it's benefiting you or not. So in this situation, they get very fortunate. They throw the good counter Molotovs, and that's also another thing, is that they, Misfits, even though they don't, well, you know what? Scratch that. What I was going to say was that even though Misfits were going to go for the long B hit, or sorry, want to feign a long B hit by throwing the Olaf smoke, they at least bait out some utility. But if we see on G2, they've only used one Molotov in response, so it's probably a good opportunity to have continued with it. But they don't do it. They weren't actually prepared for it. They just wanted to set up in a default. We've seen a lot of these rounds be late, and that might also be a reason that G2 have decided to hold their grenades, which is another reason you want to be dynamic as possible. I did say CT side, but being dynamic in general is a desirable quality for either side. Just being a good team, because a huge part of this game, especially as the meta is developed, is making sure that you can get as many grenades out as possible, because people are getting really good at using their grenades to delay for time or to section out choke points, get one kill, which is pretty much everything. And still got a very, very passive setup from G2. They don't want, SHOX doesn't want to go super aggro for whatever reason. I'm kind of curious how this pans out, to be honest. I don't remember watching this. Eats the flash like a real man. Smokes come out. He's not in a great spot because he realizes, all right, they're going to be crossing through the site, but he also knows that rock is like fairly safe. What a fucking shot from SHOX, as Shazam, as James put it. Now needs a closed casket funeral because he got his face blown off. That was pretty sick stuff. And I mean, he doesn't have to do much more. That was a critical first kill because that guy up on long B plat, he's in the watchtower. If anybody pushes through the smoke, he's going to be able to, you know, SHOX just basically took out a queen in that round. That guy has an ace in the hole for Misfits. He can stand up there, watch all the smokes from every angle, kill anybody in one shot as they come through a smoke, protect the planner who's got his hands busy, and SHOX jumps up on the rock, hits an insane shot, takes him out. So, you know, that's the SHOX we want to see. And sometimes that happens because shit, I just skipped a round. Oh, it was an eco, I think. That happens. What was I saying? No, I got distracted by the cobble drops that I didn't get. I can't remember. Opping long B plat. Something important. Watchtower, queens, open casket, closed casket, funeral. That's alright, we're moving onward. We're just gonna keep talking. It might come back to me. It was probably really important, but I wouldn't worry about it. Okay. SHOX is here at long B plat once again, playing this position with the op, and as we can see, even though there were the initial flashes, he could press forward, kind of call the bluff if that's the case, get a lot of info for his team, and now you can actually see like a difference in the rotations. Like he's actually been a very important anchor for both sites. Now we have two people at long. A hasn't been tested in a couple of rounds. SHOX, unless it was tested last round, we don't know. And because of this, we actually have like 4 players who are all leaning towards A, with Shox the only one at B. That is insane. You know, normally you see 4 people over here, you know, like when we shot Shox over here. And so that's immense value. This is the kind of stuff that stats doesn't really bring to light, which is kind of annoying. It's really important not to be a scoreboard analyst. I think there's ultimately, and this is a bit of a tangent, but again, this is the stream of consciousness demo analysis review video with beer. Modelo, if anyone was curious. But this is the kind of stuff that you can't really, maybe for a long time, ever get to find out with stats. Even though there's a number that can explain anything, and anybody who understands numbers understands that. In Counter-Strike, we don't have anything close to that. And the numbers are out there, but we don't know how to use them or whatever. We're getting there. But in the meantime, it's important to watch for stuff like map control and stuff that's really hard to figure out with statistics to see how much value there is in shit like this. So, like, look at this. Fortifying the A site with all that information on long B allowed his teammates to be able to trade out versus what was an actual A hit. And that's just simple. That, like, SHOX didn't get a kill this round, but look, he was here, and just his one position allowed A to be completely fortified. Like, what more is there to say? Like, what more is there to say? And again, not genius stuff, but important to talk about, especially when you're trying to explain how a team won. Because even when you're casting, you're going to talk about the kills because that's what's right in front of you, and you actually can't even get shit like this unless you watch the demo, like unless you pull out the mini map, unless you pause, think about what's happening, so on and so forth. You can get tidbits, but casts are mostly for the entertainment, and like 20% for the learning. But I will say it does help as a caster to be able to like watch the games live and, like, you know, be very intent on trying to figure out something, like pulling out a golden nugget of information for the audience. And there's another round where basically Misfits got telegraphed. They were able to overstack eggs. SHOX played B, and, you know, this half is pretty much over. I mean, oh shit. I think that was another save. So, one final round here, full buyout. I think Kenny S is getting aggressive at long A. He also had a really good half. Like, I think it might have even been better than SHOX's. But we're not here for Kenny. Okay, we know Kenny's insane. SHOX has been off and on, you know. So we need to touch base with our boy and figure out what's been going down. Again, this isn't like the highest tier of competition. SHOX will have more tests, and so will G2. But they're a very competent team, and they're also a team that you expect good results out versus better teams. You know, they punch above their weight, and sometimes I think that teams like this will also punch below their weight in the sense that they'll probably do worse versus teams they should be beating. But that's kind of like what you get with a team that prepares a lot. And that was super clean. That was super clean. There's something about confidence. There's something about being confident and finding the highest finding the tallest thing to stand on. That's something you do when you're very confident. I mean, is this a good angle? Is this safe? No, it's not safe. You know, this is not a safe place to be. If you were losing, if this was an 8-7 half, SHOX wouldn't be up on this box. But it's not an 8-1 half, and that's our 8-7 half, and that's the reality of the situation. When you're killing it, you take some risks, and sometimes those risks can actually further your advantage. Like if he was behind the box and Sean Garrett's walked through the smoke, maybe he gets away with it. But because SHOX is king of the world, King Kong confident, he can be up here and feel like he can be out in this risky position. SHOX is going to walk right into the trap because it's a meager moment for Misfits. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't get any better than this. So that was SHOX on CT side versus Misfits. And it was really just about that retake. I just wanted to watch this whole demo just to talk about that retake, but also touch base with you guys. And yeah, if you guys want more, I'll do more. And we'll cover kind of the major as it goes on. Not the major qualifier, the major. Thanks for watching, everybody.